Hello everybody, this is Dr. Kam Yuen. Many times I've been asked to make comments about food. In my 30 years as a doctor of chiropractic, people consult me for everything, right? So food is one aspect of it, and of course we don't want to put food as the number one support of our health and well-being. It is not number one. It's up there, but it's not number one for us. In fact, it's not even up there, right? So it's like for the human population is by 20 on the list. That means there's 19 other things that affect your well-being and health before food have really direct effect on you, right? So you want to be strong to the food that you may consume. And not only that, you want to ensure the family members not affecting you with their weaknesses about certain foods. So they may not have to tell you that, right? So you just connect with each other. Their weakness become your weakness. Of course, your weakness also make them weak as well. So, and if you want to know what really affects you, it's not like waiting for something to make you sick, then you think you have a weakness. You have a weakness, you should know you have a weakness first, and then you can strengthen that weakness in a matter of seconds. And you want to know how much that particular food or that weakness affects you. And then once you recognize that, your internal central nervous system or your physical intelligence will just strengthen you for that particular food that you have weakness to. And then, of course, you constantly want to reset your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is the first and the last or in between determining factor. Okay, if your central nervous system has the weakness, then it's difficult for you to deal with things like sweets and cheese. And let's say you have sweet and cheese that affects you. Well, you want to make these two things are even with each other. So when one of them improve, you improve the other one. So if you have sweets and cheese, and you make them even, and sweet is actually the leading weakness. So you want to strengthen yourself to that, and you have cumulative effect from sweets. It's like a 1,000,000% of you. So once you identify that, then you reduce it down to 0 minus infinity, and that's how we do things. And by doing that, that would be an improvement for you. And the reason for the leading cumulative effect that sweet weakens you would be you've been told all your life and other lifetimes that sweet or sugar is negative. So the message that telling people how bad sugar is actually hits home and make people actually can't deal with that glucose in their body. So even if they don't eat sugar, they eat food, especially carbohydrate, that would turn into sugar, then their body tissue and cells are turned off in dealing with sugar or glucose, and it stays in the blood. Then you'll be said that you have diabetes. Well, you have high blood sugar, and if you find a weakness causing your body to resist the assimilation into the cells of the glucose in your blood, if it doesn't do that, then the glucose in your blood stay higher than you would like. Right? So let's say you talk about chocolate, milk, and eggs, and fatty fried foods. You want to be strong to all of them. Right? Before you be strong in each one of them, you just make them even with each other first, and just by ensure that there's no weakness to the unevenness, it would even itself out automatically. That's how life is. It is that simple. But of course, we see the complexity instead of simplicity, right? So let's say what you list, as far as milk, eggs, and fatty foods and chocolate, actually the fatty food is the leading weakness in this group, even though you make them even. So initially, the fatty fried food is the leading weakness. Now, where does that come from? Well, that comes from, if you are doing fried food yourself, let's say you're fried or deep frying food, well, it already weakens you. The act of doing that weakens you, not so much the eating of the food. So let's say there was the job that you got. I'm not saying you're going to work at Kentucky Fried Chicken, but KFC. I'm just saying that if you have that job, it would really bother you, right? So frying food is not your forte, right? So you want to strengthen it and delete the cumulative effect of it and reset your central nervous system, so you could choose, not to do that type of work, and fatty fried food would not have any effect on you. So secondly would be milk. Let's say, what does milk bring up for you and a lot of people? Well, if you have a dairy farm, it weakens most of us, right? We don't want to be a farmer or dairy farmer at that, right? That's a leading weakness. And in many cases, from my experience, 30 years as a doctor of chiropractor, that when people have lactose intolerance, well, if it traces down it's a dairy farm weakness, then you strengthen that, then they won't have that weakness anymore, okay? So now eggs is like chicken again, right? So egg does not weaken you, or eating chicken does not weaken you, but if you have to raise the chickens, that would weaken you, right? So as silly as it sounds, I don't make up the rules, I just interpret them, right? So no one should have a hard time figuring out the weakness, right? You don't figure it out, right? You're not going to use your mind to figure that out, right? So it's essentially it's just your feeling, your perception, your intuition. If you're strong to each one of those, you will have insight. And if you're not strong with it, then you make them strong and make them even, right? So you have to get accustomed to doing things like that you know exactly what's going on without somebody telling you what affects you, right? You the expert, right? I mean, you spend 24/7 with yourself. How can you not be an expert more than other people who claim to be your expert, right? So anyway, now looking at again about sugar, dairy products for another person, right? So and dairy products is actually weaker than the sugar for this second person who stated that. And so and this time it's not about dairy farm. For this person, it's like to deliver milk, right? If you are a milk person or a mailman, a milk man, right? So that was the time would you actually have someone in a truck come to your house and give you bottles of milk on a daily basis or whenever you want it, right? So a milkman, right? So and you don't want that job, right? So and this particular weakness is not a dairy farm. So how do you know that? Well, it's the weakness that give you the answer. Of course, you don't want that weakness to last more than a second or less, right? If you have that weakness being a milkman, it lasts for an hour. Well, it kind of makes you weaker than you would like to be, right? So, as far as sugar, well, sugar is you're processing the sugar. Let's say you have a factory that that squeeze the syrup, the sugar out of sugar cane, right? So you won't want that job either, right? So it's not always the job, but if it comes up, it's an act that associate with what troubles you in terms of food. It would be the occupation, right? So, and gaining weight, dairy product definitely have a tendency to make us gain weight, right? So unless you're really strong to it, and you have to be strong to it on a regular basis, because you could be strong to it and then, a few minutes later you'd be weak again with it. And you have to monitor it. That's why people should be involved with this whole process. So you have to monitor what's going on automatically. It's not a chore in doing it, right? You monitor other things in your life, so automatically you're not even aware that you're doing that, right? I mean, you make a comparison. Monitoring is just making a comparison. Do you have a weakness or you're strong with it, right? So if you can't make that comparison, it's because you tell yourself you can't, right? Anyone can make that comparison, right? You know what's strong with you. I mean, I don't want to have students tell me after they've been with me for a while and they still say they can't tell the difference. What's there to tell, right? It's just a difference, right? So something stronger than something weaker, then you would have that two choices, and you are computerized, and you would know all your answers that really affect you in your life, right? And that's what you have to have, right, or need to have, and you will improve your family members besides yourself, right? So, and you could even do it, in a way that kind of professionally, right? You could be a consultant. Even if you have a job, you are consulting that company you have a job with, right? You're not going to go there and just take up time and push a pencil or something, or people don't push pencils anymore, right? We used to say people that go to work and pencil pushers, and they don't really do much, right? So you don't want a job like that. That kind of take away your intelligence, actually. You can explore your potential by being a consultant to that particular company, and you make that company better. And because of that, you're going to raise yourself in a corporate ladder if it's a corporation, right? So anyway, another person about dairy products. So now, like I say, it's not the whole standard answer. So dairy product, this person has, you could say, issue or problem with dairy product because she's been told that she has it, right? So she's been told, well, her mother's been told that she had it, so she passed it on to you, and grandmothers too, right? So even though they may not have a reaction or emotion about it or sensation related to it, they pass it on. There's a weakness there in the grandparents as well as the mother, being told that dairy products is a problem. So even before you were born, you inherit that from your mother. Okay, so now looking at bread and fast foods and sodas, let's say you got three things going on here: soda, fast food, and bread. Right? If you compare each one of them, they're not even with each other. So the unevenness make these three food be a struggle for you. If you make it even, then the unevenness is no longer a struggle. So you got rid of that one. That's the first weakness you want to identify and allow that to resolve. Hey, hello everybody. If you are listening to my podcast, they are now all on iTunes. So leave me a review so I could do better and better in meeting your wellness needs. Hello everybody, this is Dr. Kam Yuen. This particular person, she had a weakness when others make her eat faster than she would like. Right? So that would take care of the fast food effect. And sodas, again, is perpetuated by people consider themselves health experts, and they would tell you how bad sodas are and all that, right? So you accept it that it's bad and weakened by what they say, and it will be bad, right? So, and when you have less mental affecting the food you eat, then you will make the right choice, and you will eat or not eat. It doesn't matter, right? It's not like the mind gonna, tell you that you have to have that soda, or you crave it. The craving comes from your mind, right? So you strengthen yourself to your mind, and better yet, the next step is that you strengthen it. You want to delete the mind from having that much influence on your physical intelligence, right? So the mental intelligence, we said many times, the mental intelligence is more confused than your physical intelligence. So your physical intelligence is the computer. You only have two choices. If you make one choice that's not right, it will indicate that there's no result. You didn't change. You didn't become better. When you make a comparison, you didn't become different. And then you do the opposite. And the opposite answer would most likely would lead to some kind of improvement. Right? So you only have 1 and 0 in your physical intelligence. But when your mental intelligence, what answer you pick, well, that one answer is one of infinite choices. So when you have infinite choices, you will never make the right answer. It doesn't matter how much education you have, right? So you're still going to make the wrong choices, or you pick one answer, and all the infinite answers you did not connect with, that could affect you, and make you question about your choice. So I'm not going to say too much about that, right, at this time. But now let's go to the next person about sugar, bread, and butter. All right, so again, there's 3 things. You want to make them even with each other. Okay, so, but initially, butter is the weakness, more so than bread and sugar. Now, what does that mean? Butter is the weakness. Now, butter, eating butter itself, there's really no weakness to butter, actually. But if you connect butter with bread, then you have a weakness, right? So you put butter on bread, you will have weakness of those 2 things together, right? Bread and butter. Bread by itself is not a weakness. Butter by itself is not a weakness, even though there's a comparative weakness there, but it's nothing significant till you combine butter and bread. Then you have a weakness. So let's ensure that combination will not weaken you, because that combination is actually triggered by other combinations that you have in your life experiences. So you have life experiences. When you combine things, it really affects you more than other people. So you have negative experience of combining things, or 2 things. Actually, when you combine 2 things, it actually stir up some kind of intelligence in you that you need to have one more to stabilize it, right? So it's like, it's a pyramid, right? It's a triad, or the pyramid could stand on its own, but if you don't have the pyramid foundation, and it's like making a building. Let's say you're making a pyramid, there's only 2 things you consider. It's not a 3 thing, then it's not stable, right? So it kind of just brings up instability. So sugar itself is not a weakness, but you combine sugar with butter, that's a weakness, or bread with sugar, that's a second weakness for you. And again, the next weakness is really coming from your parents into food, and how they have to constantly watch what they eat and all that, right? So that doesn't do anyone any good if you have to keep an eye constantly on what you eat. You just want to be strong to the food, and not like avoid this food and avoid that and eat this, right? So some food that's good for others may not be good for another person, particularly if they have a weakness there to begin with, right? So it's really the weakness make the food not as beneficial as it ought to be. But when the person don't have weakness to that particular food, even if there's no benefit, the person's not going to have a reaction to it or emotions about it and have sensation about it. So those are the three things that have to take into consideration would be your reactions, emotions, and sensation. If you don't take into those three simple things into consideration, then everything you do is just pretty much hit and miss, right? So it's like you're not going to get it right, right? What good is it? Most of the time you don't get it right, and once in a while you get it right. Now you don't want to live your life like that, right? So anyway, spicy food, right? People make a comment about spicy food, and spicy food could be a weakness for you. That's the person that make a comment about spicy food, but it's no weakness for Marcus. But for other people, I would say I won't even say majority of people, I would say for 40% of the population, spicy food that would make the person question about spicy food, right? They don't have an answer for it. They think that it must be not good, right? Spicy food, right? So spicy food, spice has been used to preserve the food, down to human history, before there was refrigeration and freezers, right? So to preserve the food is the weakness, and it could trigger the preservative problem, but in your case, it didn't. Spicy food, it just triggered the experience. That's how you preserve food, and it bring you back. If it's not your own, spiritual past life experience or your ancestors, that they have to use spice to keep the food from getting spoiled, so they won't starve, without food, right? So people are so concerned in the past about starvation, and as you know, this is a big planet we live in, right? So we starve in one place, we could always take a walk and start eating other things in the wilderness, right? So I don't want to sound like I'm belittling the situation, but I'm just saying that if you're starving, well, you go up to the hills, you would always going to get something to eat, right? So you're not going to die of starvation unless you want to use that as a reason of dying, and then that's fine, right? So people should not be starving, right? And I mean, die from starvation, right? So, of course, eating, the act of eating, could be a weakness. But this particular person have a question about eating. Allison said that, but there's no weakness there, right? So even though she have a question about eating, it's really more about cooking. So I would say Allison do not like to cook, right? Well, she may, do things to make her like cooking. She could turn into be a gourmet cook or some other reason to kind of balance the weakness to be cooking all the time, right? So if Allison have a life that she stays home and she have to cook for the family, and that's the only thing she does, that would kind of weaken her, right? So down human history, that's what happened to a lot of women, right? So they're homemakers, so to speak, right? They stay home and they clean the house. Well, cooking is more of a leading weakness than cleaning the house. And if it bothers them a lot, then could relate to eating as a question, right? But the question or the problem is really cooking, and it could be food, right? So you look at those three things: eating, food, and cooking, right? Unless you eat raw food all the time. Of course, when you're a raw food eater, then you would at least get rid of one problem, right? That cooking, at least immediately the problem. But cooking could go back in history. That has been a problem for the person. So even though you stop cooking or just eat raw food, well, there's some improvement, but it's not that much. I would say it would be about 10% improvement. And some people actually, feel good or gratifying when they have a 10% improvement. So you really want 100% improvement at all time, right? And you could do that. It's a process that you have to be exposed to with this particular method that I've been doing to all my patients. So for 30 years, I've seen or consulted people or patients, hundreds of thousands of people, okay, in different parts of the world, different cultures. It's not I just open one place and stay in that neighborhood and just see the people that come in the door or drive to see me. Well, in the beginning was like that, right? In the beginning, I used to have a physical clinic, and of course, I could only get people that live in the neighborhood to a certain extent. Of course, I did have people, drive 50 miles to see me, and that was a big thing, right? Drive 50 miles just to see me, right? So, but we've already gone over that level that we don't have to see eye to eye with each other, right? And if we want to do that, we could do it on Skype now, right? So, and people could improve in anything in their life, right? So this is a game of life. You want to improve tennis, well, you have to get someone that could, coach you or direct you to the game from the person's own perspective, how the game should be played, right? Especially when the person had more experience than you. But actually, when you use this approach, you can improve any game that people play. I'm talking about sports. And you don't have to know anything about the sport, right? So you can always make someone run faster and jump higher, be more coordinated. So it's about that fitness, right? So if you are more fit, you could put up with the food, right? If you have and I'm talking about internal fitness. I'm not talking about how much weight you could, lift or how long you could sit on a stationary bike, right? So, and it's great to have all the different type of routine, but you don't really need these exotic routine to give you fitness, right? So you just shake the ball. What I do, where I used to be more exotic, but it get to the time. I mean, it will get to the time that you want to be less exotic when you get older, right? So it's like, what's the sense of doing new moves for your body, right? Exotic or different type of positions or different type of routine, right? You just pretty much shake and stimulate your central nervous system. And the central nervous system is what's going to determine your fitness. So I don't want to get into fitness. Just talk about food, right? But you want to be more fit than food, right? You want to be more fit than cooking and eating. And you want to have the fitness behind it, right? So you could say you want the strength behind it, but it's really fitness, right? So fitness, without going off the tangent too much, fitness is strength, right? It's strength, endurance. So strength, endurance, coordination, agility, and speed. So did I leave any out? Let's do it again. Strength, endurance, flexibility, coordination, agility, and speed. So that's a hexagon of fitness. Fitness is not just two things, right? Or fitness is not just I'm strong, I'm fit. Well, not really, right? Now you fit in the strength department doesn't mean you have total fitness, right? So when you connect with your central nervous system, and central nervous system connect to every part of your body, you're not gonna be always concerned about how your body is doing, right? You speed your central intelligence and central nervous system gonna determine how well you feel or function or perform, right? So when you have the central nervous system, access the central nervous system, and not have to use the MRI to tell you what's wrong with you. So MRI could only tell you what's wrong with you, right? They can't even lead you in a direction what needs to be done about it, right? So So again, to remind you, if you want to improve your central nervous system, that includes your brain, it has to be improved by itself, right? That means the central nervous system improves the central nervous system. It's self-regulating and self-improving internal computer. And once you recognize that, you have less things that troubles you in your life, okay? Only once in a while things troubles you. Not like everything troubles you, and once in a while you have good moments or good days, right? Now, who need that kind of life? Oh, I had some good days today, right? And that's not a good approach. And you definitely don't want to rely or depend exclusively on food for your well-being, right? That's kind of pretty much miss your overall life, right? I mean, what's wrong with, I shouldn't say what's wrong. I mean, people should know everything about life, right? And it doesn't take studying and memorization. You just have to get that restricted mind out of the way and activate your central nervous system to connect with your body and allow your body to connect back to your central nervous system. And you want the central nervous system connect with the outside of your body, in your community, in the outside world, and allow it connect back to you. You don't have to, listen attentively what's going on. You just receive it. You know what's going on without paying attention when your central nervous system is turned on or activated. All right. So with that said, I don't want to go anymore, but I will continue to give you my experience, my input of over 30 years of Dr. Chiropractic, over 50 years of teaching Kung Fu to improve people's performance and improve people's attitude. And of course, we make mistakes that through misinterpretation that we think the mind that we want to connect or be in touch with, or the spirit. No, you really want to be in touch with your physical intelligence, your central nervous system, and that would connect with all the answers for you. You have all the answers yourself. Right? You don't need experts. In fact, the expert using their mind really can't tell you much. Okay, they just give you all kinds of possibilities because they memorize it, and none of that is applicable, right? So you want immediate result that follows, right? Whatever said, it would follow by immediate results. Okay, so I would end it right here. So thank you so much for being part of it. So let's be part of this wellness revolution. You change the world, right? And improve everybody in the world. So thank you.